We get asked questions about crime along the Oregon coast quite a bit, and as realtors, we're not supposed to speak directly to buyers about crime because it can lead to steering. We're supposed to direct people to online resources and have them do their own research. Well, I've done that myself quite a few times in the past, and I found that it can be pretty confusing trying to figure out where the higher crime areas are and what some of the statistics mean because there's so many different ways to track these things. In this video, I'm going to give you some of the numbers from local police departments and tracked and recorded by the FBI, and hopefully give you a clearer sense of what crime is like along the Oregon coast. All that starts now. All right, so I'm going to take you through a few of the websites that commonly come up first on Google. The first one is crimegrade.org. A lot of people like to use this website because these heat maps are sort of easy to look at. So I'm going to cover all of the towns along the Oregon coast that have police departments that are recording these statistics. But real quick, I'm going to take you through and show you some of these towns just looking at a heat map so we can kind of all see together what most people are seeing when they look these things up, doing their own research online. So Astoria, just taking a glance at Astoria, you've got a lot of red in here. Now the red indicates overall crime grades, the green being an A+, the yellow being C, and the red being an F. So anywhere that you see red or any color that's similar or close to red is going to indicate, according to this heat map, that it's a higher crime area. So you see a lot of that in Astoria, not much of it in Warrenton. See a fair amount right around here, around downtown, and getting close to downtown Seaside, which really actually most of it being on the east side of 101. And then south you see it down here in Cannon Beach. A lot of red in Cannon Beach, which is really surprising, and also down into Manzanita. We'll cover some of the rest of this map on a little bit later in this video, but I'm going to go to a few other websites as well. So this website, macrotrends.net, just looking at Astoria crime now, this only goes up to 2017, but some of the things that jumped out at me here. So Portland actually is number 3 on this list. I don't think this is every city in the state, but a lot of them they have listed here. And you can see Seaside and Lincoln City above Portland, which is very, very surprising. And that rate for Seaside, almost twice what it is Portland and Lincoln City. Again, this website came up for me first on Google when I was searching for Oregon coast crime rates. And so this might come up for you too. So if you're just glancing at some of this stuff, Rockaway Beach also up there. And then there's Cannon Beach right there. You can see Cannon Beach, Coos Bay. So they've got Cannon Beach listed above Coos Bay, Astoria, Gresham, which is East Portland. A pretty high crime area, quite frankly. It's really surprising to see some of these numbers. So here's another website that I came across as well. This is the 10 most dangerous cities in Oregon 2023 update. Now, it does note that the article's statistics come from a third-party source, does not cite the source. But I wasn't surprised to see Portland number 1 on there, but I was surprised to see Astoria at number 3 here. Spent a lot of time in Astoria. I personally don't ever feel unsafe, or anywhere in Astoria doesn't really ever make me feel uncomfortable, or anybody else that I know for that matter. And I also noticed too, Warrenton, which is right next to Astoria. Take you back to the map here real quick if you're not familiar with the geography. Warrenton being in the northwesternmost corner of Oregon. A lot of people think that's Astoria, but it's actually Warrenton. And this picture, by the way, if you are familiar with Warrenton, you will recognize that that is not Warrenton. So if the statistics that they're using for this article are anything like the images that they're using, it's probably not exactly accurate. So what I'm looking at here is from a .gov website, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, so the FBI Crime Data Explorer. What they do is they take data from any police department that you want to look up right here. So we started from north to south with Astoria. And there's 2 things I'm looking at here. I'll put a link to this website if you want to check out this website yourself and kind of scroll through some of these things. But I'm looking at all violent crimes and then also all property crimes. So for Astoria, all violent crimes 2021, the blue line is reported, the gray line is cleared. that means there's been something beyond it being reported, like an arrest or prosecution. So these are crimes that were actually cleared. Scrolling down right here, you can also see some of the demographics. So there's 45 violent crimes in 2021. And this is kind of interesting to know too. If what are the odds of you being attacked by just a random person, or if it's somebody that actually knows you? So the relationship unknown was 6 people. Again, 45 total crimes, violent crimes for 2021 in Astoria. And I've cataloged all these here. And by the way, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new to this channel, living on the Oregon coast, and you'd like to know more about what it's like to live on the Oregon coast, a lot of our videos are about the towns. They show you what the towns are like, what the pros and cons of the towns are. So make sure and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like that, and also tap the bell. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, which is every week. As a licensed broker in the state of Oregon, as much as I like making these videos, I'd love to help you move here. So if you have questions, if you want to email us, text us, you can call us. You can also click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom call with us to meet us and to take the next steps in moving here. We'd love to hear from you. No matter how you get in touch with us, we've got your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast. We're going to start here. Before we jump into the numbers for each city nationally, violent crime at a rate per 100,000 people. So some of these statistics are broken down into 100,000. Some are broken down into 1,000. So we'll have to do a little bit of math here. But so if we're looking at every 1,000 people, which is going to be more relevant to the Oregon coast, you don't have any towns, of course, with 100,000 people. This would be 400 divided by 100,000, so you'd be about 4 people for every 1,000. So the average crime rate, about 4 people for every 1,000, or another way to look at it, about 1 in 250 people for the entire United States. Here is the state of Oregon. It's going to be closer to about 3.5 is where Oregon is falling. Again, 4 for the entire country. And then, not to pick on California, but obviously a lot of people that reach out to us and that we've helped move to the Oregon coast have come from California, so I think they're relevant to mention as well. And California is going to be closer to the mid-4s. So again, crime is going to be contextual for a lot of people. So the context for a lot of people coming from California, the crime oftentimes feels less, regardless of where they're moving to along the Oregon coast. All right, so let's dig into some of the actual numbers. So Astoria population, just over 10,000 people, 45 violent crimes. So it's about a 1 in 230 chance of being a victim of a violent crime in Astoria. And that really kind of puts Astoria right along with the national average. The other thing I'm looking at here is the total property crime. So there were 63, again, out of 10,000 people, said about 1 in 164 chance of being a victim of property crime in Astoria. All right, moving north to south, Warrenton is going to be next. A little bit surprising here that Warrenton only had 8, because Warrenton is right next to Astoria. Not a whole lot different than Astoria. Definitely the town and everything and all the amenities and everything has a different vibe to it, but it's not like the people are a whole lot different in Warrenton than they are Astoria. So a little bit surprising to see that number so low at violent at 8 for 6,300 or almost 6,400 people population, and then total property crime 126. So that was a little bit higher. So violent was pretty low, but a little bit higher in the total property crime in Warrenton. All right, now next Seaside. Again, remember Seaside for macro trends. And again, to be fair to them, only looking up to 2017, but Seaside had a very, very high crime rate. So according to this website, if you stumble across this website, you'd think that Seaside's crime is going to be really high. But population of 7,200 violent crimes, just 6 violent crimes. So that gives you a 1 in 1,200 chance of being a victim of violent crime in Seaside. So the actual data as recorded by the police department and tracked by the FBI doesn't maybe bear out some of these things that you might see on some of these other websites. Again, just looking at crimegrade.org, you probably think that Seaside is a pretty high crime place with this F rating right here. Numbers, like I said, don't exactly bear that out. So total property crime for Seaside, 26 total property crime. So that's 1 in a 278 chance. All right, next, Cannon Beach. So easy math on Cannon Beach, 0. So 0 violent crimes and 0 property crimes for 2021. Now again, referring back to this map right here, Cannon Beach was given an F for their crime grade. And again, referring back to this, Cannon Beach was right here, having a higher crime rate than places like Eugene, Salem, Coos Bay. And if you know Cannon Beach is a small, a quaint a town. It's definitely not a dangerous town. It's probably one of the most, if not the most popular town along the Oregon coast. They're known for that iconic Haystack Rock. Just south of them, really small town, but they do have their own police department, so that's why it's getting noted here. Manzanita, with a population of 617 people, 2 violent crimes reported, 1 total property crime. Tillamook. Now, Tillamook is going to be further inland, not exactly a coastal town, but Tillamook Police Department is going to cover some of the coastal towns, such as Pacific City. So for a population of 5,200 people, violent crimes 6, total property crimes 20. So pretty low down there in Tillamook. All right, now Lincoln City. Now this is one that shows up. This is going to show up probably on a lot of websites. I've seen a lot of stats over the years with higher numbers for Lincoln City, so probably no surprise there, but maybe not as high as some might expect. So violent crime, Lincoln City, just under 10,000 people, 9,979 people, violent crime 38. So 38 out of 10,000, that gives you about a 1 in 263 chance of experiencing a violent crime in Lincoln City. Again, that's not higher than Astoria. Not going to be higher than most places. Property crime, 38 property crimes. So that gives you, it's actually the exact same number. So also a 1 in 263 chance. So the actual numbers for Lincoln City for 2021, and you can see the graph right there. A little bit higher for the top one is violent, the bottom one is property, a little bit higher for violent, a little bit lower for property, but not a whole lot different in past years. So the crime rate in Lincoln City, probably not super high, maybe not as high as you might think just by looking at some of these other things like crimegrade.org. All right, moving on now to Newport. Newport, population just over 10,000, coming in at 10,496. Violent crimes 29, so that gives you a 1 in 362 chance. Total property crimes 98, so that's a little bit higher. It's actually probably one of the higher property crime numbers for the Oregon coast. 98, just above 10,000 people. That gives you a 1 in 107 chance of being a victim of property crime in Newport. South of Newport is Florence. Now, this is going to be the lowest number, with the exception of places like Cannon Beach that had a 0. But Florence, having a population of just under 10,000 people, violent crime 1. So with a population of 9,475, odds of violent crime happening to you in Florence, 1 in 9,475 chance, right? So total property crimes was 43, so also pretty low. That would put them at 1 in 220 chance of being a victim of property crime in Florence. So Florence has an older demographic, great retirement town. No surprise there that violent crime is going to be very, very low. All right, Reedsport. Reedsport is not a small town, as you can see, 4,300 people, but not a town that gets a lot of traffic, that's experiencing a lot of growth lately, and not a lot of people moving there. The population, I think, has been pretty stagnant or so over the past 10 years. Violent crime, 10. So 10 out of 4,300 people, that gives you a 1 in 433 chance of being a victim of violent crime. Total property crime, 40. So that's a little bit higher. Some of these towns where the total property crime is a little bit higher too, I would say, these are towns that there's usually going to be some sort of commensurate issue with drugs, usually like methamphetamines. So some of these towns have some problems with meth, and that usually ends up leading to a higher property crime. All right, next is North Bend. Now, this is a little bit surprising as well. Kind of like the Astoria-Warrenton numbers were a little bit surprising how different they were. North Bend and Coos Bay numbers are quite a bit different. And let's refer back to the map, because North Bend and Coos Bay, they're often grouped together, like Warrenton, Astoria are often grouped together because they are really connected. They're right next to each other, right? So North Bend being right here, Coos Bay being right here. And just again, looking at this heat map, it doesn't really look like North Bend is a whole lot better than Coos Bay, but what do the actual numbers say? Population of North Bend, 10,285, violent crimes 5. So that gives you a 1 in 2,057 chance on average of being a victim of violent crime in North Bend. So very low for North Bend. Property crime, closer to average. 30 property crimes, that gives you a chance of 1 in 151. Now, if we look at Coos Bay, violent crimes 61. So that puts Coos Bay closer to average. 61 out of a population of 15,970 gives you a 1 in 261 chance of being a victim of violent crime. So that's really right in line with the national average. If I had to say anecdotally, where do we hear the complaints most about crime? It's probably Coos Bay. Now, all things being equal, Coos Bay is going to have a larger population, so obviously we would expect to hear more from people in Coos Bay. And just anecdotally, though, the people that we tend to hear complaints about crime from the most are people that usually have lived there the longest. So we don't hear complaints about crime too much from people that have recently moved there, like people that we've helped move to the area, or maybe people that have lived in Oregon and retired on along the Oregon coast, which so many people do. It's mostly people that have lived in a particular area and they've experienced that contrast of maybe virtually no crime for so long, and then maybe there's a little uptick in crime and it feels like crime's a lot higher. So it's usually people from Coos Bay that might tell you that crime is high. People that move there, I have not heard that from people that move there. By the way, total property crime for Coos Bay on the higher side. Again, I think that probably has to do with some of the drug problems. 169 property crimes out of just under 16,000 people. It gives you a 1 in 94 chance of being a victim of property crime in Coos Bay. And again, these areas, as you saw on the map, are right next to each other, but quite a bit different in the numbers. All right, next, Bandon, a lot like Cannon Beach, although the population is higher. 3,331 people, 0 violent crimes, 0 property crimes for the past year. Not a surprise there as well. Pretty quiet, sleepy town, known for its world-renowned golf course. Again, not as small as some of the other smaller towns, so not necessarily considered a small town, even coming in at just over 3,000 people, but pretty quiet town as far as crime goes. All right, then moving on south to Port Orford, population 1,155. 0 violent crimes. Property crimes, there were 3 reported, but 0 that cleared. South of Port Orford, we have Gold Beach, population 2,365 people. Violent crimes, 3. Total property crimes, 11. So violent crime, that gives you 1 in 788 chance. Very low. Property crime, 1 in 215 chance, getting you closer to average. And then finally, rounding out the list, Brookings, population 6,837. Violent crimes, 16. That gives you 1 in 427 chance, so low. Total property crimes 44. That gives you a 1 in 155 chance, maybe a little bit on the higher side there. So all in all, Oregon coast property crime, violent crime is going to be low. I think compared to the state, compared to most other states where people are moving from, and compared to nationally. And again, a lot of times crime is going to be relative. It's going to depend on where you're coming from. And like I said, anecdotally, a lot of the people that we've helped move here, they tell us that they feel like the crime is quite a bit lower. So if you're somebody that has questions about these things, again, we're just supposed to direct you to these resources. I'll include a link for the FBI's website if you want to look at some of the data yourself. But feel free to reach out to us with any questions. You can email us, call us, text us, or click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom call with us. Typically best for people that are thinking about taking the next steps and moving to the state of Oregon. They're coming from outside of the state. Until next time, take care, everyone.